You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
So, David, you wanted to talk some about this online censorship discourse.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. Before we started doing this show, and that kind of comes back to what we were just talking about as far as providing a point of view that's not influenced by politicians. Before we started doing the show, I never really listened to this radio station because pretty much they were, ultra conservative. And I don't have a problem with ultra conservatives, but I don't really like to get, my opinions from the right or the left. I don't listen to a whole lot of CNN either.
Right.
I don't
have a TV, so I'm not listening to CNN.
Yeah, don't have a TV. So anyways, this past week I started hearing all this talk about Twitter, and Trump is getting censored on Twitter, and public service, and they can't believe he's doing this and that and the other, and it's just so unfair. And it got me to thinking, as unionists, as trained unionists, as people that represent workers in contract negotiations, in arbitrations, in grievance hearings, we're always taught one of the most important things that you need to look out for down the road whenever you start making any type of accusations or defending a worker is precedence, not president, but precedence. So what you do may have a profound effect on other things in the future that you're not recognizing at that time. So you're always looking for precedence, and you're very aware of what you're doing and what you're asking for. And so this whole Twitter thing kind of brought to mind the idea of just a year or so ago with these gay couple that is up in Indiana. And some people may remember it, some people may not. But this gay couple goes to a baker up in Indiana and wants him to bake a cake. And the Supreme Court is stacked with conservatives, bigots really, that decided, because this went all the way to the Supreme Court, that decided that this cake baker didn't have to bake a cake for this gay couple. Something that I thought we had resolved 60 years ago here in Alabama, that you couldn't be a bigot, you couldn't be a racist and have a public service, provide a public service. A black person could sit down at the counter with another white person and buy a hamburger. But apparently the Supreme Court and most of the conservatives out there was cheering them on, that this baker had a right to deny service. Well, that set a very important precedence in the fact that now we've got Twitter. Well, guess what, folks? Twitter's not a public platform. They're not government owned. They get to decide who they want to speak and who they don't. So this precedence was set, and y'all lost for it.
Yep. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about this some more on... Welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host David Story. So, David, you were kind of talking about about this free speech stuff, the censorship stuff, and and what you were saying was that the kind of conservative capitalist free market logic would be that, okay, if the baker doesn't have to bake the cake for the gay couple, then Twitter doesn't have to let Trump lie to millions of people and encourage them
just
to
lie.
They don't even have to let him be on the platform.
No, exactly. It's a free platform.
Yeah.
It's private owned business.
Right. And that is correct. When we talk about censorship in the Twitter, the Facebook discourse, and conservatives are always, they've got this victim mentality about people are always out to get me. And honestly, it's amazing to me. We've got thought leaders, conservative type thought leaders here in Alabama. In Alabama, right? Who are whining that, oh, I'm so censored. I don't have my opinions heard, or my opinions are not shared by, oh, I'm a, heterosexual, straight, white Christian man. I'm so like, no one ever hears from me. And it's like amazing because these are these are like the only people that you hear from in Alabama. And it's just, I don't know, like it's silly. Like Republican conservative folks control every lever of power in Alabama, most levers of power nationally. And they still are able to have this victim mentality.
The
about
silent
stuff.
majority that's so loud that you could
but
make sense.
And here this is something. So obviously the issues with like Twitter and Facebook and censoring conservatives or whatever, quote unquote. There's actually been a report that there's a whistleblower at Twitter or Facebook, I can't remember, that was showing that showed that actually what has been happening is that these platforms are so sensitive to accusations of bias against conservatives that they have been more lenient on conservative falsehoods or conservative disinformation than they have on left-wing disinformation. Now, I haven't read the report. I haven't like really dug into it because here's the thing about this, man. I just don't care that much. I just really don't care. We're talking about.
I think it's important to point out the hypocrisy.
It's reasonably
of the
important.
Censorship.
Yeah, it's reasonably important to point out the hypocrisy. But like, folks, we're talking about the President of the United States being sad that Twitter is not letting his campaign account tweet knowable falsehoods while we have in this country unidentifiable federal agents kidnapping people off the streets without cause for protesting. We have got somebody in Salt Lake City, Utah, who is facing life in prison for criminal mischief. She painted the steps to the DA's office red, supposed to look like blood because he has blood on his hands. That DA is trying to put her in prison for life. Life. Okay? This is a criminal mischief charge, and he's trying to put her behind bars for life. There are people who burnt a police car, and they're looking at a minimum of a 35-year sentence. That's insane. This is property destruction, and you're looking at the majority of somebody's life. This is crazy. So we want to talk about censorship. We want to talk about the boot of the state being on somebody's neck, like in this time. They're trying to destroy the Postal Service right in the run-up to an election where there will be more mail-in ballots than ever before in the country's history. They're trying to destroy the Postal Service before this, which is undoubtedly going to affect people's ability to have their voices heard in the democratic process. So I just have so little patience for this BS about censorship on Facebook and Twitter. Like, Facebook and Twitter's been mean to me. I'm the president of the United States, and I'm worried about people being. I don't know. I just have so little patience for it. But on the other hand, if I'm just thinking about it, intellectually, Facebook and Twitter and these social media platforms have become something of a public square, because that's where a lot of the debate happens, right now. That's where a lot of the debate happens in 21st century America. Now, obviously, if we look at the letter of the law, the letter of the Bill of Rights, it is not meant to combat private censorship. In fact, workers in America have no rights to free speech. You cannot go in your job and be talking about how, I hate this or I hate that, or talking about politics on your job can get you fired. Absolutely. In America. We don't have free speech rights as far as the private sector is concerned. But, if we want to talk about the spirit of free speech, I don't know. I'm kind of sympathetic to that. I'm kind of sympathetic to the argument that maybe we should nationalize these platforms and they be publicly owned and operated, and be forced to conform to the First Amendment because these are so important for our discourse today. But, that's not what the conservative type – that's totally contrary to, like, the free market logic, the capitalist logic of, the right-wing movement in America.
Yeah, and to bring it back around to the Constitution and – the point that they're trying to make is to say that he's been censored. He should have free speech. And of course, what you've been saying and what I've been saying is you don't have free speech in a private platform, not a privately owned platform. But you know what is a violation of someone's First Amendment rights? You know what is the government attacking someone is sending federal agents to snag people up off the streets whenever they're protesting. It is for the government to use his bully pulpit, his platform as the President of the United States, to say that any football player kneeling on the stage should be fired. Get rid of the SOBs is what he said.
Right.
That is a violation of the First Amendment rights because that is the government influencing your right to free speech. And there is the problem. But everybody wants to act like that's not a big deal. We should support getting rid of these SOBs.
Right.
But whenever he gets his feelings hurt on a private platform, the whole world comes out to talk about, I can't believe it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. There's so many more important things than the freedom of the President of the United States to be able to just spread lies on any platform that he wants. Like, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. We're in the middle of what could turn into the largest recession in American history. We're in the middle of mass movements against racial injustice in this country. It's like, I don't know. I just can't make myself care about it.
I just find it so hypocritical. That's the biggest problem that I have is the hypocrisy of the right-wing media to come out and talk about public service and talk about we're being censored, and yet we've got to where taxpayer-funded police attacking people, but yet if somebody has a heart attack, we have to pay out of our pocket for an ambulance.
Yeah.
But yet we need freedom of speech. It's just so hypocritical.
Yeah.
Nationalize what we want, and we, when we feel attacked, and then, everything else should be private industry ran.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to be talking about some other stuff on the other side of the break. I've got some good news, and y'all are going to love this. I'm going to be bashing on the left a little bit on the other side of this break. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're bipartisan in our in our critiques of the people who hold power in this country. So we're going to be doing a little bit of that on the other side and telling you some good news. So stay tuned. This is the Valley Labor Report. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments throughout the week. And we also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So you can see if we're on your listening platform of choice. You can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. And if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.